Have you ever noticed how some mornings just feel off, as if your brain is wrapped in fog? What if I told you that the very first things you do after waking up could be quietly stealing your clarity, your memory, even your long-term brain health? After 60, how we start the day doesn't just shape the hours ahead, it shapes the years ahead. And yet so many seniors are unknowingly following routines that chip away at their mental sharpness, increase their risk of confusion, and even accelerate conditions like stroke or cognitive decline. In today's video, I'll walk you through 5 common morning habits that I urgently recommend you stop. More importantly, I'll share why these habits are harmful, specifically for older adults, and what you can do instead to start your day feeling clear, steady, and energized. Whether you live alone or with others, whether you feel sharp or sluggish right now, these 5 truths will help you understand your brain better and treat it with the care it deserves. So, if you've ever worried about your mental clarity, if you felt a little more forgetful lately, or if you just want to protect the mind you've spent a lifetime building, stay with me. You might discover that the key to feeling brighter, calmer, and more like yourself again starts the moment you open your eyes in the morning. Ready? Let's begin. Number 1, skipping water in the first 30 minutes. One of the worst things you can do for your brain after waking up is to delay drinking water. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but not drinking water in the first 30 minutes of your day is like trying to drive a car without oil. Your brain is made up of about 75% water, and after 7 or 8 hours of sleep, your body is dehydrated. Every cell in your body is thirsty, but none more so than your brain. When you wake up and reach for coffee first, or simply go about your morning without rehydrating, your brain pays the price. Studies show that even mild dehydration, just 1 to 2%, can impair memory, slow down processing speed, and cause fatigue, anxiety, or irritability. And here's the tricky part. Most older adults don't feel thirsty even when they are dehydrated. That's because the body's ability to signal thirst declines with age. So by the time you feel it, your brain function may have already dipped. What's even more important is when you hydrate. That first window, those first 30 minutes after waking, is when your body and brain are the most responsive to hydration. Your blood is thicker in the morning. Your blood pressure is more unstable. Your brain is trying to boot up for the day, and it's doing it on an empty tank. If you give it water, you're helping it stabilize blood flow, flush out waste, and improve mental alertness. If you don't, it's like asking your brain to jog uphill with a heavy backpack. There's a reason why many strokes and cardiac events happen in the early morning hours. Thick blood, low hydration, and unstable blood pressure all collide right after waking. And while water alone won't prevent every problem, it creates a foundation of protection. Think of it like this. Every sip is a signal to your brain that the body is safe, steady, and ready to face the day. I once had a patient, let's call him Richard, who was 78 and had been experiencing frequent confusion in the mornings. His daughter thought he might be in the early stages of dementia. But when we look closer at his habits, the real culprit was dehydration. He'd wake up, skip water, drink 2 cups of coffee, and then eat something salty for breakfast. Once we made one simple change, starting the day with 12 ounces of plain water, his clarity returned. Not completely, but enough to avoid a misdiagnosis and give him his mornings back. This habit might sound too easy to be powerful, but that's the point. The most powerful changes often start with the simplest shifts. If you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, this small daily act can literally change the way your brain functions each morning. It's not a magic pill. It's not a special supplement. It's water-timed, right, and used well. Number 2, checking your phone before you even move. Another surprisingly dangerous habit for your brain in the morning is one nearly everyone does without thinking: grabbing your phone before you even sit up in bed. It might feel harmless. You're just checking the time, reading the news, maybe scrolling through a few messages, or looking at the weather. But this one habit can quietly set your brain up for stress, distraction, and decision fatigue before your feet even touch the floor. Here's what's really happening. When you look At your phone, first thing your brain is hit with an immediate flood of information. Notifications, headlines, emails, opinions. It's like jumping into a loud, crowded room while you're still half asleep. Your brain hasn't even fully activated its focus and reasoning centers yet, but now it's already reacting. It's trying to process, compare, judge, and respond. This creates something called cognitive overload. Cognitive overload in the first 30 minutes of your day throws your brain's rhythm completely off. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision and emotional regulation, isn't ready to work yet. It's still in its warm-up phase. But instead of letting it gently come online, you're forcing it to deal with complex tasks, opinions, and problems before it's ready. Over time, this habit increases anxiety, shortens attention span, and makes it harder to prioritize important tasks throughout the day. I had a friend named Carl, 72 years old, a retired postal worker. He was waking up every day feeling on edge. His blood pressure readings were higher in the mornings, and he couldn't figure out why. When we talked about his routine, it turned out he'd been reading news articles the moment he opened his eyes. Not just any news, political headlines, economic worries, crime reports, all before brushing his teeth. Once he made a change and started spending his first 10 minutes stretching, breathing, and quietly making coffee without any screens, he noticed a huge difference. His mornings felt calmer. His blood pressure dropped. His mood improved. This habit isn't just about the phone. It's about protecting your brain's peace. When you start your day in reaction mode, you hand over your mental energy to the world. But when you start it with presence, calm, and awareness, you take back control. Even if you live alone, even if your days feel quiet or uneventful, your brain still deserves to begin each morning on your terms, not your phone's. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 3, skipping breakfast or just having coffee. One of the most common mistakes older adults make in the morning is skipping breakfast, or worse, replacing it with just a cup of coffee. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I've done that for years and I feel fine. But here's the truth. As we get older, the way our brain and body respond to food, or lack of it, starts to shift. And starting your day on an empty stomach, especially if you're only fueling it with caffeine, can quietly sabotage your brain, health, and energy more than you realize. Let's break it down. After fasting all night, your brain is low on glucose, the fuel it needs to think clearly, stay balanced, and communicate smoothly between cells. Breakfast is the opportunity to give it that nourishment. But when you skip it or just have coffee, you're sending your brain into a stress state. Your body starts releasing cortisol, your stress hormone, to keep you alert. At the same time, caffeine amplifies this effect, giving you a false sense of energy while your blood sugar stays low and your focus becomes fragile. And the result, you might feel jittery or slightly irritable. You might forget small things like where you put your keys or whether you took your pills. You might snap at someone without meaning to. These seem like personality quirks or just getting older. But more often, they're symptoms of a brain trying to run on fumes. The psychological impact is even more concerning. When your brain is underfueled in the morning, your emotions become harder to regulate. Little things feel bigger. Worries multiply. Tasks that used to feel easy suddenly feel overwhelming. This sets the tone for the rest of your day. And when it happens repeatedly day after day, it begins to shape your view of aging itself. I knew a woman named Alice, 76 years old, who told me she'd been skipping breakfast for decades, claiming she just wasn't hungry in the morning. But every day by 11 a.m., she'd feel laden and emotionally drained. Her daughter finally convinced her to try something simple. Half a banana with some almond butter and a small bowl of oatmeal. It wasn't much, but within a week, Alice noticed her energy stayed more consistent and her afternoon headaches disappeared. She Even said she felt less foggy when doing crossword puzzles. Something she'd always loved but had been avoiding. The key here isn't to eat a heavy meal. It's about giving your brain what it needs: a little protein, some healthy fat, and a touch of natural carbohydrate to steady your blood sugar and calm your nervous system. Even a boiled egg and a piece of whole grain toast can work wonders. What matters is consistency. So, if you've gotten into the habit of skipping breakfast because you're not hungry or you think your cup of coffee is enough, I invite you to reconsider. Your brain deserves better. It's worked hard for you all your life. Give it a kind, steady start each morning, and it will reward you with clearer thinking, steadier emotions, and a calmer heart throughout the day. Number 4. Reaching for the phone first thing. One of the most damaging morning habits for older adults, especially when it comes to mental clarity and emotional balance, is reaching for the phone the moment they open their eyes. Now, this might seem harmless. You tell yourself, I'm just checking the time, or I want to glance at the news, or maybe I'm looking for messages from the kids. But what most people don't realize is that this tiny gesture before your feet have even touched the floor can flood your brain with chaos before the day has even begun. Here's what happens. Your brain, after a night of sleep, wakes up in a delicate state. It needs a few minutes to orient itself, to gently re-engage with the world, to set the tone for the day. But when you immediately expose it to a bright screen, endless notifications, alarming headlines, or even just a long list of emails, you're throwing it into high alert mode. You're skipping the gentle transition and going straight into survival thinking. And it's not just the information that's harmful, it's the type of information. Much of what we see when we first open our phones isn't neutral or calming. It's news that triggers fear, texts that spark worry, or reminders that fuel anxiety. Your brain in that moment moves from rest into stress. Cortisol levels spike, your heart rate picks up, and your thoughts scatter before the day has even had a chance to begin peacefully. There's also a psychological pattern that forms over time. When your first interaction with the world each day is filtered through a screen, you start to lose touch with your own thoughts and feelings. Instead of asking yourself, how do I feel this morning, or what would bring me joy today, you're already reacting to someone else's agenda. You become a responder, not an initiator. And for many seniors, especially those living alone or with limited contact, this habit can increase feelings of isolation, helplessness, and even mild depression without them realizing where it's coming from. I met a gentleman named Robert, 68 years old, who told me he used to check his phone the second he woke up. Mostly the news, sometimes social media. He said it didn't seem like a big deal, but he noticed that his mornings often started with a sense of heaviness, like the world was just too much to deal with. He began a new practice, placing his phone in another room overnight and starting his day by drinking a glass of water and sitting outside on his porch for 5 quiet minutes. No phone, no noise, just morning air. Within 2 weeks, he said he felt more grounded, less reactive, and surprisingly more hopeful. That tiny change gave his brain the space it needed to breathe, to begin the day with intention rather than tension. So, if you've gotten into the habit of grabbing your phone before you've even sat up in bed, I urge you to pause. Give yourself those first few minutes to simply be. Notice how your body feels. Greet the morning like an old friend, not an enemy, rushing in with bad news. Your brain will thank you for it. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 5. Skipping a real breakfast. It's amazing how many older adults, especially those living alone, have quietly fallen into the habit of skipping breakfast, or worse, grabbing something quick and sugary like a pastry or a processed cereal bar and calling it a meal. And while this might not seem like a big deal on the surface, the consequences for your brain can be deeper than most people realize. You see, your brain has just spent the entire night in a fasting state. It's been resting, repairing, and consolidating memories, all of which require energy. When you wake up, your body and your mind are asking, sometimes silently, can you give me something nourishing to work with? But when you skip breakfast or fill that need with something artificial and low in nutrients, your brain doesn't get the fuel it truly needs to function at its best. Think about how you feel on those mornings when you grab just a cup of coffee or a slice of toast and run with it. Do you ever notice how your thoughts feel slower? How your memory seems a little foggy? Maybe you feel a little unsteady on your feet or irritable without knowing why. These aren't just signs of age. In many cases, there's signs of a brain that's being underfed at the exact moment it needs stable energy the most. There's also a bigger psychological impact here. For many seniors, especially after retirement or the loss of a spouse, routines tend to dissolve, and breakfast, which used to be a shared event or part of a morning rhythm, turns into an afterthought. It becomes something you either avoid entirely or treat like a chore. But here's the truth. Making breakfast a small daily ritual, something simple and wholesome, can become a powerful act of self-respect, a way to signal to yourself, I still matter. My brain matters. My day matters. I once had a conversation with a woman named Elena who was 74. She had been feeling increasingly forgetful, anxious, and sluggish in the mornings. When we looked at her daily routine, one thing stood out. She wasn't eating anything until nearly noon, and even then, it was usually just crackers or juice. She told me it was because she didn't feel hungry right away, but after gently shifting her habits, starting with something warm, like oatmeal, a few berries, and a boiled egg, she noticed that her thoughts became clearer, her mood lifted, and she felt steadier throughout the day. She even said she began to look forward to her mornings again. And that's something I wish every senior could experience. A peaceful, grounded, nourishing start to the day. Not rushed, not ignored, not fueled by sugar and caffeine, but anchored by food that supports the brain's delicate chemistry. So, if you're in the habit of skipping breakfast or just tossing back something quick and empty, I encourage you to reconsider. Even a small change, a few bites of something real and balanced can send a powerful signal to your body and brain. I'm taking care of you. I'm preparing us for a better day. That quiet, consistent message of self-care ripples through your entire mental state and builds over time into a real foundation of health. Let your first meal of the day be a promise to your brain, not an apology. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be real. Final thoughts. If there's one thing I've learned over the decades, it's that the smallest morning choices can shape the quality of our entire day and eventually the quality of our life. When you're in your 60s, 70s, or 80s, it's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about being intentional, choosing habits that serve your body and mind, and recognizing that it's never too late to take care of yourself, especially your brain. Because, while the world might not always see it, your thoughts still matter, your clarity still matters, your peace of mind still matters, and even more importantly, you still matter. Maybe you found yourself guilty of one or even several of the habits we talked about today. Maybe you realized halfway through the video that your morning routine hasn't been kind to your brain in years. But here's the good news. Awareness is the first step. Just being here, just listening already puts you ahead of the curve. You're not stuck. You're not too old. And you're certainly not powerless. This stage of life isn't about perfection. It's about course correcting with wisdom. It's about saying, yes, I've made mistakes, but I'm still here. I still have time to treat myself better, and there's something beautiful about that. Something hopeful, something strong. I hope today's video has reminded you that your brain deserves your attention and respect. That your morning habits don't just set the tone for your day, they send a message to yourself about your worth. And if that message hasn't been a kind one lately, today is the perfect day to change that. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for that phone, that sugary cereal, or those negative thoughts, take a moment. Protect your mind with care. It's been carrying you through this life for decades. It's time we carry it a little more gently in return. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.